Hello and welcome. This is going to be the last episode of our character setup. Let's dive right in. So right now we can click play, and we can move around, but our camera doesn't follow us or anything like that. Doesn't move with us. There's a couple things you could do, but because of our script, actually depends on where the camera is facing. So you don't want to just parent it to the character and just kind of have it behind him. So if we come down here, this section right here, the addition with the camera's transform, Euler angles.y, that's basically its vertical rotation. So where it's facing essentially is where our forward direction is going to be for our character. This target rotation right here. So basically he's going to turn if you turn the camera. It's a really nice setup for a third-person controller. So Cinemachine is fairly new, fantastic universal all-around camera. So we're gonna actually bring that in. So go down to Window. You can come down to Package Manager, and basically you can import any kind of asset from the Unity Asset Store or from Unity themselves. So let's go to just search here, Cinemachine, and packages, my assets. Might have to go to Unity Registry here. Change that to Unity Registry, and then type in Cinema. There we go. There it is right there. So you can just click this asset, make sure you have it selected, and click Install. Now it's not going to actually put a folder here. Most assets you install will add or import will add a folder here with the assets within. This is actually going to give us another drop-down arrow right here. So as we can create a game object, now we can create a Cinemachine, different types of cameras. So let's do that right now. Let's go Cinemachine, create free look camera. Then you get just a huge amount of parameters, but we're going to set this up pretty easily. So first of all, let's click our main camera and see what happens. So we got it. As soon as you add a Cinemachine camera system to your scene, it's going to add a Cinemachine brain to your main camera. And that's basically just so that it can pick up on the information, whatever the active camera is. You can have this doing all kinds of different things. It's really great actually. These blends, ease in, out, are really awesome. So it's basically you can transition smoothly between cameras. It's a really great cinematic look. No pun intended. So let's go back to the Cinemachine asset here, the free look camera. So I just want to change follow and look at. So I want to follow the chicken, of course. Okay, and it's going to place the camera up there. We can go to our game and see where we're looking. So next thing you want to do is the middle rig is the important one. The middle rig is what we're looking at. So you have a top rig, bottom rig, and middle rig. So what that is basically is these three circles, these three red circles. So your bottom rig is here. It's going to actually bend the camera as you go up and look down upon him. It's going to kind of angle itself down like that. And the same thing when you come down, it's going to kind of like point up at his butt. And this is your how close you'll be to him. So we can change the radius of these circles. We can change the height and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and change the height of our bottom rig to something like 0.2. Let's change the radius to 1. 1.5 might be good. Let's do the same thing with the top. Let's do this one. Go to the game view and you can see a little bit better what's happening. So I think I'll go 1.5. I'll change my radius to 6. I'll actually put this at 2, I guess. The top rig will go 3.5. Okay, I'm just gonna try these out, and you can test basically whatever you like. You can change the offset. You can kind of do like an over the shoulder kind of thing, right? So just play around with all these. It's a crazy amount of customization here, but all I really want to do is set all this. So the next thing we need to do is set the look at transform. So I'm actually going to create an empty object underneath my character here. Go back to scene, right click, create empty. Okay, we're going to call this camera target. So we can place this wherever we want on him, and that's where the camera will stay looking. So I'm going to put it somewhere around maybe his neck. Go down here, change our camera target, look at to that. Okay, so this is actually going to allow you to move the camera using your mouse. So mouse X, mouse Y, that's basically moving your mouse to the left and right, moving your mouse forward and backward. Now we might want to switch these inverts, so I'm just going to click play and see how it goes. Right, and it's going to actually follow us now. So something is inverted. I think it's the X. No, it's the vertical. Or maybe I'm used to inverted. I'm unsure on that. Okay. All right, let's do that. So here on the camera, I just want to uncheck. Sorry, I want to actually invert the y-axis. So maybe they're both inverted is the way I'm used to it. No. Sorry, I'm just swapping them then. Invert the Y, don't invert the X. There we go. That's more what I'm used to. Okay. So I'm holding Shift to run. If you set it up the same way I did before, there's one thing you need to do. Just come over to the blend tree and change this threshold on the chicken walk to 0.5. One thing I should have mentioned in the last episode is if you have any issues with your code or your animator, like if I come over here and I say speed 0, it's going to give me blend tree child should not have a speed of 0. If you want to see the list of all these warnings and errors you get, you just come over to your console. Now normally this will clear itself once everything's good again. Once you click play and everything's good again. So I'm just going to change this back to, what did I have it at? 1.05. Okay, and you can click clear here if you know everything's all good and you don't want to see this anymore. There you are. So yeah, in the console here you'll see all that stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to add another window. We're going to go Window, Animation, and Animation. Okay, so now we have an Animation tab. I'm going to pull this down here and dock this in front, I guess in between the project and the console. Just something nice to have here. So now if I click a skin mesh renderer, an animated character, I can see the animations that are in the animator right now. So if I click play, yeah, you can play your animation in the scene. Click gizmos and remove anything that's in your way. Check the run, click play. Right, just a nice tab to have here. And you can also create animations on objects. Very cool. Whoops. So come back here and just uncheck preview. Set him back to the way he was. Okay, so that's just convenient to have there. We're probably not going to use it anytime soon. Let's go to our animator. Inside the blend tree here, by the way, I should have mentioned, you double click a blend tree to go inside of it as if it's a layer. You just come back here to base layer, and here we are. So we need to add some more parameters. We need to add, let's go into our code. So obviously we need to add one called land with a capital L, one called fall with a capital F, one called jump with a capital J. We're also going to create a new function ourselves called attack, so we can do that little smash. So first of all, let's add those parameters. Go trigger, fall with a capital F, trigger, land, trigger, jump. Okay, so let's now go to our character, find our animations. I'm going to drag in one of them. Let's drag in jump first. There he is. Okay, and just from any state here basically means no matter what animation I'm doing, snap into this jump here, basically, if my trigger jump is called. Okay, I want to take this way down so that he just immediately jumps. I don't want him to like take a second. Right? Maybe I want to change this to 2, see how that goes. A little bit fast. Let's change it to 1.4, maybe. Just play around with these values until you get something that you like. I like having this jump and lands. I like having them very snappy. Just so that there's not you're not moving and it's still doing the landing animation or something like that. You're trying to run away or whatever. So let's do that. Let's go to our land. Let's go to Orlando. Okay. So I guess from the jump, I'll just drag this in and leave this here for a sec. So the jump, probably want that to go right into the fall. So here I'm just going to right click, make transition. We're going to go right into the fall here. No condition. We're not going to use the fall here. Whoops. I actually probably want that pretty full. Let's go 0.2. There we go. Okay, so we'll leave exit time, meaning it'll play the full jump animation before he starts falling. Right? And it's only going to go into the falling if we haven't landed. So I'm going to go from any state, basically. So if he's here or making his transition to fall, if we do land, he's going to do the land anyway. So let's come over here and just crank this way down so that he will definitely land at the right time. Change this parameter to land. Okay, and we can make that a little bit faster too, I think. Maybe 1.3. Let's try that. A little bit better. Maybe 1.2. I'll go with that. Okay, so there's one more thing we need to do. We need to go, we want to take our land here, and we want this to transition back into our idle and our land, or our locomotion. So we'll leave the exit time there. For our idle, we'll say if speed percent is less than 0.05. Same thing with our locomotion, greater than 0.05. Okay. Just gonna save. And that should allow us to do most of what we want. The next thing we need to do is just add our falling animation. So I think the jump and the land might be too snappy, just a touch. And we can add we can add some to our jump height. Let's go 1.1. Let's do that. Just so we can actually get on top of a cube a little bit easier. In our animator here, I want to change the snapping just a bit to these two here. It's a little too snappy. Okay, save. Okay, so finally let's add our attack. So if we come down to the jump function, I've noted some little titles here. We can just copy this whole thing right here. Control C, Control V, paste. So we'll rename this attack. Okay, so if we are grounded, now this is a code you can use with the character controller here. So controller.isGrounded basically is asking if the bottom of the collider is touching another collider. So if it is grounded, we'll set the animator trigger. We'll create a new one called attack with a capital A. Give ourselves a true or false statement. We'll say bool can move equals true. So we'll give it a default value of true. We'll set it at the start here to be true. And just to be careful there. And under the whole move section here, where do we have move? Okay, right here actually. Sorry, an update. We'll say if can move. So if we are able to move, do this. So we probably want to set our speed percent back to 0 right before the attack. Let's say right here, just copy this. This is how you set the float of an animation, same as you set a trigger here. We can set a float, so we'll say set float, speed percent 0. And you need to end every line with this semicolon if you've noticed I've been doing that. Let's take this away. And let's say can move equals false. Let's do this before we trigger our animations. Okay, so I probably want this first as well. Just think logically about it. Code is called from top to bottom, right? All right. So now we need to set our can move back to true somehow. So I think what we'll do is we'll create an Ienumerator. This is probably the easiest way I know how to make a little bit of a combat system. So you can do combos and stuff with this method. Let's do Ienumerator. So this is basically you can do a lot of things with this, but mainly I'm going to use it as a timer. So we'll say attack timer. That's what we'll call it. Parentheses. Okay, and then you can only do certain things with this Ienumerator. It's not just a void function. What we need to do is add a yield, return new, wait 4 seconds, and capitalize. This is a function, so capitalize all that. And now functions, you can tell them to take certain parameters or break, basically. So this wait for seconds here, it needs a number, otherwise it's not gonna do anything. So we need a number in here. So let's say the wait for 0.5f. That anytime you add a fraction in a code, you need to write f at the end. Basically means float. So we'll use a half a second, basically. We'll wait a half a second, and we'll say can move equals true. Okay, so hopefully our attack is pretty quick. Maybe a half a second is not the right number. We'll figure that out once we set the animation. And then down here we want to say start coroutine. Okay, in parentheses, attack timer. You need to punctuate and spell everything exactly as I have here. Start coroutine right here. We'll start this attack timer coroutine, and it'll give us half a second before it lets us move again. So it'll stop us when we attack, basically, and it'll let us move again in half a second. Okay, so I like that. So I'm going to go up to update, and right here where it says the jump, if input.getKeyDown, parentheses keycode.space, that's basically how you add a keyboard key function anywhere you want. So I'm going to check here also if we're hitting the mouse button. So instead of get key down, I'm going to say get mouse button down. Okay, and all you need to put in this whole parentheses here is 0, 1, or 2. 0 is, I believe, the left mouse button, 1 is the right mouse button, and 2 is the middle mouse button. So I'm going to say 0. So when I click the left mouse button, let's change this to attack. He'll attack. Let's say if can move. But there we are. Whoops. I probably left that exclamation point there, did I? Yes. Okay. Alright, so if we can move, we can attack, basically. Okay, so I can't spam it, he'll just attack one time after the other. It won't queue everything and actually attack 25 times if I click 25 times, right? It'll stop if I stop. Very good.